to my channel. Today is my favorites of 2019 series. Today we're going to be talking about all of the eye stuff. So all of the eyeshadows, meaning palettes, liquids, creams, all of that stuff. You guys know I test out a lot of products here on my channel, especially in the year of 2019. And there are some that I have just completely fell in love with. Like when I'm going through all of these palettes, which palettes did I reach for the most and which ones did I get the most use out of? I think that's the most important thing to keep in mind when you're going through your collection. Which ones do you actually use? And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. As you guys know, in all of these videos, I'm going to be doing giveaways just because I want to share my love with you guys of all the things that I love, and I have been really working hard on these giveaways, so I'm really excited to share them with you, and I hope you guys love them as much as I do. So hang tight till the end of the video so you guys can hear what is a part of the giveaway. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the eyeshadow palettes first, and then I'll get into like the cream eyeshadows and the stick eyeshadows and stuff like that. I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone. My favorite palette of 2019 is definitely hands down the Scotts Barnes palette. And yes, I've only had it for a few weeks, so you're probably thinking, well, how can you say that's your favorite of 2019? Because I don't have anything like this in my collection that blends like this does. I never get any fallout with this palette. It always blends so beautifully. The shimmers in this palette are absolutely stunning. And I love it. It's my go-to. My favorite shades in this palette, as far as mattes go, is this one right up here, which is called Risque, and Foxy, and Brick House. Those three matte shades are perfection. I'm obsessed with them. But there's a lot of beautiful shimmer shades in this palette. The shimmers are definitely like nothing I have as far as the way that they apply. They're very thin, but extremely pigmented. Such a wonderful, wonderful palette. He nailed it on the formula on this palette, and I love it. I can't stop using it. It is my favorite. It's become very dirty, which you guys know that when you have a very dirty palette, that means that it's very well loved. And this palette, I'm wearing it today. I just can't stop wearing it. It's just such a beautiful palette. I'm absolutely obsessed. Okay, so you guys already know how I feel about that palette. So the next palette, you guys are not going to be surprised by this. I've talked about it 1,000 times here on my channel, but it is the KKW Beauty Classic palette. This is the palette that I reach for, especially when I'm wearing some of the cream products and, you know, some of these potted shadows I'm going to be talking about later on in the video. This is the palette that I grab. This is just one of those palettes that has all the shades that I love. These are just those easy, neutral, everyday type of shades that blend beautifully, look beautifully on my skin. They look, all of the shades work beautiful against my skin tone. Like this has just been like my holy grail. And I actually got this, not this summer, but last summer. And I just have not stopped using it since I got it. It's just, this is my second palette, believe it or not. That's the reason why this one looks so new. This is my second palette. I had hit pan on this shade, and this shade. And I gave that palette to my daughter and got me a new one. I just love this palette so much that it's just one of those that I will always have and I will always reach for. And it's on that like everyday rotation. You know what I mean? It's one of those palettes that sits on my countertop. I love it that much. The next one that I absolutely fell madly in love with that I did not expect to. This one shocked me. So I don't think you can get this anymore, which kind of bothers me to tell you guys about it. But I have to mention it because this one stole my heart when I first used it. I don't have a lot of MAC eyeshadows in my collection, and so I think the actual formula of this palette really surprised me. So this was an exclusive sale on the Nordstrom's website. I think it was actually during the Nordstrom's anniversary sale. This is the Eye and Face palette. This is the warm palette. Now it says it's warm, but I'm going to be honest with you, this is actually more of a cool tone palette than a warm. Not only is the blush and the highlighter just absolutely beautiful, but let me say this. Before this palette, I was stuck in a warm toned face type of shades. Like I was stuck in that rut where all I would do and all I would reach for is warm tones. Those are the tones that just kept calling, and that was the palettes that I was reaching for. When I got this palette and started using some of these really beautiful cool tone shades, that's the reason why I don't know why they call it a warm tone. It's not a warm tone palette, I can tell you that right now. Maybe a few shades up here are warm, but most of the mattes in this palette are cool toned. Anyway, but this palette made me fall in love with cool tones, and it was one of those palettes that made me come out of my warm tone shell a little bit and start playing with the cool tones, and since then I just absolutely love cool tones, and I'm starting to reach for them more and more. This is a beautiful palette. The MAC shadows actually blend beautifully, and I can see why so many people love their shadow formula. I love it. Just a fabulous palette that I have just absolutely loved since the day I got it. And like I said, it really surprised me. It doesn't hurt that the packaging is absolutely beautiful, but the quality of the shadows is just amazing. Fabulous, fabulous palette. So the next one is the FREINDCATION palette. So this is from Dose of Colors and Desi X Katie. The only shade that I don't love in this palette is this shade right here. And this one is like supposed to be kind of like a topper, where it's supposed to kind of, you put it over top of stuff and it's supposed to give it a wet look. It doesn't really do that. It does, but it kind of gets a little bit hard panned after you continue to use it. So when you first do it, it does. But as you keep digging your finger in it, it's one of those glitter pigments that the more that you put your finger down into it, kind of like the Charlotte Tilbury one, you know what I'm talking about, in the quads. In her quads, she always has that one shade where if you keep putting your finger down into it, it eventually is going to start getting hard panned, and then you have to take your finger, kind of go over top of it and kind of break up the hard pan, and then pick it up and put it over top. That's kind of what this shadow is, but I really, really loved this palette. This is just one of those easy neutral shadows to grab, and these are just so beautiful. Like, those beautiful blue shades are so pretty. And this beautiful green shade, it's probably one of the prettiest greens I have in my collection. I don't have anything like this as far as this beautiful green shade. This green is so unique that it just made the palette that much better. They did such a great job on this collaboration with Dose of Colors, and the packaging, of course, is beautiful, but the palette itself, I really enjoyed. I got 2 eyeshadow palettes from Charlotte Tilbury because I didn't want to like overwhelm you guys with a lot of Charlotte Tilbury. So the first one I have here is the EXAGER. Out of all of the quads, this one is by far my favorite. I am starting to get pan on this shade right here because I have used this quad so much, but the EXAGER is definitely my favorite. It's just one of those beautiful, elegant, classic Hollywood type of shadows. This is one of my favorite palettes from her. Of all of the ones that I have, this is probably one of my absolute favorites. I've also really loved the Stars in Your Eyes palette from last year. So this is last year's holiday palette, and I pretty much used this palette pretty much the entire year of 2019. I didn't use it on camera only because you couldn't get it anymore. I love this palette. I think this palette just screams me, you know, it just has me kind of written all over it. So I definitely reached for it quite often, and it was definitely a favorite for 2019. So the next one is the Pat McGrath Midnight Sun. You guys know I don't have a lot of Pat McGrath in my collection. I'm not a collector from Pat McGrath. Her shadows are hard to work with when you first get them. If you're not used to that much pigment, it's a lot to get used to. But once you get used to the pigment, you know right away how much pigment you're going to get, and you need to, you know, just be careful when you're dipping your brush down in there. This one, out of the 3 that I have, now I do have the new Rose one, and the Divine Rose. That one's a beautiful palette. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But this one is the one that I feel like was made more for me on an everyday basis, because Mothership 5 had more of those like strong holographic shades. This is the one I have reached for the most out of all of the Pat McGrath palettes that I have, and it was definitely a favorite of 2019. This one surprised me. You guys have heard me talk about this a few times. My friend Teresa is dead. She's one of my dearest friends here on YouTube, and she kept telling me, Tara, you need, she never tells me this. So when she tells me this, I'm like, what are you talking about? Girl, get the hell out of here. What are you talking about? She was like, Tara, you need to get the Urban Decay Honey palette. You need it. And I was like, no, I don't. I don't even like gold shades that much. I don't need an entire palette filled with gold shades. I don't need this palette. She kept saying, Tara, you need this palette. And this went on for like a month. Literally, it was probably a month after this launched that I finally said, okay, fine. I'm gonna buy it just to shut you up. And sure enough, was she right. I love this palette. This palette from Urban Decay is by far my favorite palette from Urban Decay. Not only because the pigmentation, because let me just say this, the formula in this is not like other Urban Decay palettes. This is a different formula. This one is much more pigmented. It's got like a rich like pigment, and the thing that I love about these shadows is, you know how when you get a shadow and you blend it out and it kind of has a shine to it even though it's a matte? That's how these shadows are. When you blend them out, they still give a shine, so they're not like just a dusty looking dirty matte. These have such a beautiful shine to them. I love this palette, and even though I don't have a lot of golds in my collection, I don't need them now. If I ever have a need for any type of a gold eyeshadow look, this is the palette I'm gonna grab for. I don't need the fancy $125 Natasha Denona gold palette when I have this. Like, I love this palette so freaking much. Like, they did such a great job on this one. Love this palette. Moving on to Kristen Dominique. So Dominique Cosmetics launched this latte palette last year, I believe. I think it was in 2018. But I've pretty much used this pretty much off and on throughout the entire year of 2019. This is a really beautiful palette. The mattes are extremely blendable and very beautiful on the eye. The shimmers are stunning. Like, holy smokes. Like, she did such a great job on the formula. I mean, look at that. Look at those shades, you guys. I mean, seriously. This green right here, which is called Espresso, is one of my favorites. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Look at those shades. Yeah, this latte palette I think is very underrated. I don't think that it gets the attention that it deserves, because these shadows, not only the mattes are fantastic. I mean, let me show you how good the mattes swatch. So I'm going to go into Hazelnut, which is the first shade in the palette. Look at this. Look at that. I mean, that's a good swatch. I mean, I only dipped it in once. Richly pigmented. They have a lot of pigment, but they're very easy to blend out. Doesn't give you any skipping, no muddiness. Like, I think it's a very underrated palette. And this one I definitely love. And I know it's just kind of those everyday shadows. I mean, I get it. It's kind of boring. But you guys know I'm kind of a boring bitch anyway. Like, I don't go too adventurous into the eyeshadow world anyway. So, I mean, it kind of is what it is, you know? Let's move on to Natasha Denona. Now, I do have a few of the bigger palettes from Natasha Denona. The Metropolis palette, you guys know, is not my favorite. So her bigger palettes, I think I'm pretty much gonna stop buying. I think I've reached that level of, I'm like, they're just not for me. It just is what it is. The Metropolis palette, people were pissed at me because I didn't like that palette. However, these two mini palettes, I'm obsessed with. And I also have the Camel palette, but my daughter stole that Camel palette from me, and it's like a mess. You guys wouldn't even want to see it right now. I gotta get me a new one. I also love the larger 5-pan palette, which is called the Camel palette. But these two are the Mini Nude and the Mini Star, okay? These are fan-freaking-tastic for $25. Such beautiful shades together. They all coordinate so well together. And I just love these little palettes. I just continue to reach for these constantly. I just love them. I do like this one as well. This one is the Coral palette. Problem is, 2 of these shades are creamy matte. And it's the cream de matte formula that I don't love. This peachy shade right here is still my favorite peach shade of all time. Look at this shade, you guys. Oh, you guys know I'm a sucker for a peach. Look at that peach shade right there. Oh my gosh. And I think the lilac shade in here is really pretty. I don't love the matte shades in this palette. The matte shades in this palette are not my favorite, but the shimmers make it worth it for me. Like, I was totally fine to pay the $48 or whatever it is, because I love this lilac shade right here. I mean, look at this lilac shade. Look. Oh my god, it's so pretty. It is such a beautiful lilac lavender shade. I love it that much that I was okay to pay that money for it, because I love those shades. Okay, it is what it is. Now we're gonna move on to ColourPop. I have 2 palettes from ColourPop. Actually 3, but I don't know where the other one is. Shit. Oh, I do. Hold on, I got it. This is the Brown Sugar palette. I freaking love this palette. Love it so much. Even though ColourPop is one of those brands that just keeps knocking out palettes after palettes and collection after collection, and it's so freaking hard to keep up with, this has been my favorite palette from them. Out of all of the palettes that I have, this is the one that I reached for the most. So this is the Karichi and ColourPop collaboration. Fantastic palette. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I love the shades in here. So good. So good. The other one is the Double Entendre. This one is fantastic too. Look at how beautiful this palette is. It just has me written all over it, does it not? This one kind of reminds me of the Dose of Colors and Desi X Katie without like the blues and the greens. So if you like the Desi X Katie palette, but you don't like the blues and the greens in that palette, this one is the one I would get from ColourPop. This is a fantastic palette. Okay, the other one is the Sweet Talk palette. I freaking love this cute little palette. The only thing I don't love is the glitter formula in here. I love the shades in here, but I don't love the glitter. Like this glitter, no, it's not that one. It's this one. I do not like these glitter. Ugh. I don't like the filling of them, you guys. The filling of them freaks me completely out. And they're freaking messy, and they get all over the place, and they're not that good of a formula. I'm not trying to be mean, but the glitter formula in these palettes are not my favorite, and I don't feel like they work quite as good as some of the other glitter palettes that I have, or other glitter, you know, like pressed glitters that I have. It's not my favorite formula, but ColourPop is very affordable, so I kind of give it a pass. But I love the shades in here as far as like for that like peachy moment. Such a beautiful palette, especially for like the spring and summer. Good palette. Okay, so that's it for all the palettes. Let's move on to a few of the singles that I have here, like the potted shadows and stuff. So I'm gonna first start with my Holy Grail. I got two Holy Grails, okay? And I'm not gonna, don't ask me to choose which one I like more because I can't. It's like which one do you like more out of your kids? These two are the exact same way, so don't even ask. Just don't even ask because I'm not going to answer it. So the Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize and the Hourglass Scattered Light Glittered Eyeshadows. These are the ones that I have used the most of 2019 when it comes to single pot shadows. I freaking love these. So let's start with the Charlotte Tilbury. So in the Charlotte Tilbury, I have the Rose Gold and Eyes to Mesmerize. Eyes to Mesmerize, what the piss am I talking about? I have the shades Rose Gold and Maria Antoinette, and one of my friends recently sent this to me. She sent me this beautiful bouquet of flowers. She owns a flower company, and I will put the information up right up here. These are preserved fresh flowers that last for months and months, and she sent me this beautiful bouquet of flowers. Look at those flowers, how beautiful they are. And she also sent me this, and she knows that I love the Eyes to Mesmerize, so she sent me the Maria Antoinette shade. I freaking love this shade. It is so pretty. Look at this. Oh, so pretty. Look at that shade. It's like the prettiest taupey shade ever. I'm obsessed. And then of course I have the Rose Gold shade. You guys have seen me use the Rose Gold shade 1,000,001 times. But these are just a creamy formula. Let me tell you how I like to apply these. So of course you guys know I like to use the P. Louise eyeshadow base, and then I take a powder and set it. So then I go over top with a thin layer of this creamy shadow, and it will last me all day, and it doesn't budge, it doesn't crease, it doesn't get bunched up. If you use too much, it will crease. If you put an eyeshadow base down and you set it with powder, that gives your skin a barrier between the product and the oils from your skin. And if you use a powder, it will continue to absorb the oils throughout the day, and you won't have the problem with creasing and stuff like that. Now, I am more dry skinned, so that could be another reason why these don't crease on me. I don't know if that makes a difference, but these do not crease on me, and they last all day, and they're so beautiful, and they're so freaking easy to apply. And like I was saying earlier, when I would use my Rose Gold shade during the summer, I would grab this, throw it on my lid, and then I would grab my KKW Beauty palette, and I would go into like this shade, and maybe deepen it with like this shade. Like this palette was the palette that I reached for when I was using these type of cream shadows. I used this Rose Gold. I can't tell you how many times I've used it. and I still have so much of this left. So you get a lot for your money, and it's a good product. Now let's move on to my Hourglass Scattered Glittered Lights. Okay, these are my babies, okay? So I have these in 3 shades. I have Smoke, Ray, and Foil. And I'm gonna put a picture up here on the screen what these actually look like swatched, because they're really hard for me to swatch just because I have long nails and it's hard for me to get in there. These are so easy to apply and they look so beautiful, and I do not wear glitter glue with these. Now you guys know I'm really picky about wearing glitter glue with glitter pigments, but when it comes to these, I don't, because they're so finely milled. It's almost like putting a shimmering eyeshadow on your lid. So they're not really chunky, and that's the reason why I don't wear glitter glue with these. The way that I like to apply them is I like to take a brush and I will go down into the product, okay? Just go down right into it and spray it. So I do not recommend not spraying these. I feel like you get a better application and less fallout if you spray it. So I will spray it, then apply it on the eye. And I will build from there. I only spray the brush once, and I can go back down in with the brush being wet and continue to pick up and build. But these will make my eyes shine for days. And every single time I wear one of these, somebody in the comments always mentions how beautiful my eyeshadow look is. They just make the eyes just shine, and they're just so stunning on the eye. Like, I cannot recommend these enough. These are fabulous, and I cannot wait to get more shades of these because these are top notch, you guys. So moving on to these from Huda Beauty. These are matte and metal melted eyeshadows, and I felt like I was the only one that liked these when these first came out. I didn't see the best reviews on these, and a lot of people didn't like them, and I think it was because you kind of had to get used to the formula on how to use them. And so these are the double-ended liquid eyeshadows. So you have, you know, a shimmering on one side and a matte formula on the other, okay? Let's just say, for example, this one is Private Jet and Shimmering Sunset. So Private Jet is going to be a matte liquid eyeshadow. And what I like to do is just put a couple of dots, and then I like to just take my brush and blend it out. And you can blend these very easily. Like, they blend so beautifully, and they are budge proof, people. These are budge proof. Like, once you get them on, they're budge proof. And that's the other thing that I love about them too, is they don't fade. I don't use the matte side as much as I do the shimmer side, but I still really, really love the shimmer side. I really love the matte side. They're both really good. I was kind of surprised when I saw that Scott Barnes actually used this one on Jennifer Lopez in the Met Gala look. So this one is the Froyo and Wednesday, and he used this on her eyes, and he talked about how much he really, really loved this formula. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm not so crazy, because I did feel like I was in like a, you know, a boat alone, because I felt like I was the only one that didn't love these. But I absolutely love these. I think these are fabulous. So I have a few stick formulas here that I have just really, really loved, and I have to say, the Caviar sticks from Laura Mercier are probably my favorite stick formula. I have several of them right here. I've bought their holiday sets from last year and this year, and these are just extremely easy to use, and that's what I love about them the most. They blend beautifully on the eye. I never have any issues with them blending. I never have any issues with them, you know, bunching up or looking bad in any way, and they're long lasting. I think that's the other reason why I love them. They're very easy to use, but they last a really long time. I like to take like a darker shade and kind of create like a V, and then like start blending it out and then start going from there. So when you're using like a powdered eyeshadow, you know how you'll kind of start light and then go to dark? Well, that's kind of how I do it. I will start with a lighter shade in the crease and then kind of start blending and working into a dark shade in the crease. Well, with these, it's the exact opposite. I start really dark and work my way to the light. And these are just a really good formula, really, really nice, long lasting, and really pigmented, but very easy to blend. So these are a win-win. The other formula that I absolutely love is from Nudestix. So I have a couple of them. The copper foil is probably my favorite. I freaking love this. On those days when you want a beautiful copper eye, let me tell you something. This is beautiful and so easy to apply on the eye. Don't have to worry about fallout. Don't have to worry about, I mean, just look how beautiful that is. Seriously, it's beautiful. I have the shade Fig, which is a matte shade. This is the one that I will grab when I want to build some depth. I mean, look at that. And then you can just really blend it. Now these have a tug to them. So even as I'm trying to pull it with my finger, they have a nice tug to them. And these will last you a long time as well, as far as that goes. And then I have the shade Tay Tay. This is for the lip and the cheek. So, you know, you can kind of apply this on the cheek and really blend it in with your fingers, but I love this on the lip. This is, I wear it more on the lip instead of on the cheek, but yeah, I really love the Nudestix formula. I think the Nudestix is fantastic. So that's it. Those are all the things that I've loved for the year of 2019 for my eyes. And let's go ahead and jump into what I'm going to be giving away in this video, because this one I'm really excited about. So couple of days I will be doing my favorites of my lipsticks. I have a lot of good lipsticks that I cannot wait to share with you guys that are my absolute favorites. So hang tight for that video coming up, and then I will get into the worst of 2019, and that will be the end of the series. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you guys so much for the love that you show me and my channel. It means so much to me. I hope you guys have a wonderful day filled with love and joy. I will see you guys in my next video, and I love you all so much. Bye.